I definitely think they made the right decision with Halloween 4. This is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This was released in 1988, directed by Dwight H. Little, written by Alan B. McElroy, with a cast including Donald Pleasence, Ellie Cornell, Danielle Harris, and we also have James P. Wilbur as Michael Myers. And I won't spoil anything that happens in this film, although I will be talking about the character of Laurie and what's happened with her in this film. I was actually quite confused, and I will discuss my confusion in a moment, but I won't spoil anything other than where she's at in this film, which will make sense in a moment. But it will, of course, I guess, spoil what happens in the previous films. The third film, I didn't really care for. Loved the first two. The third one was not a good idea. It wasn't a Michael Myers story, and apparently they were actually meant to be turning the Halloween series into an anthology series. So the third one had a different story. The fourth one was apparently going to have a completely different story as well, but the third film didn't do as well, which I can understand. So they decided to bring back Michael Myers. Absolutely think it is the right decision. And this one it confused me because I have seen some of the later Halloweens, which feature Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character. But in this one, she's dead. She has a daughter, and I'll talk about her daughter in a moment. But she was killed. But before the film, in between the second film and this film, her character was killed off. And I thought, well, how? She's in the later films. And I did a quick Google, and apparently the other films are just basically set with a different timeline. They basically decided to, I guess, dial it back and then go in a different direction. If anybody has any more concrete information on that, please feel free to let me know. But I will explore that in more detail when I get to those films. But she's not in this one as Laurie. And it's actually about her daughter, who is Michael Myers'. Now, I guess this is a bit of a spoiler for something that was established in the second film. It's actually Michael Myers' niece, because he is actually Laurie's brother, which was not established in the first film. And I don't know if they just decided to make that the case later on, but he realizes that he has a niece. And they called her Jamie, which I rather liked, named after Jamie Lee Curtis. Apparently that wasn't the character's name originally, so I think that was a really lovely decision as well. And throughout the film, Myers is going after her. And I don't want to say too much about what happens. I don't want to give away anything, obviously, but I found it to be a really great journey. I thought Jamie was a brilliant character, very likeable. I think Danielle Harris gave a great performance with the character. And I also really liked Loomis in this, Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasence. It's not that I didn't like him before this one, but I feel like this was the first time I cared for the character emotionally. And his emotions in this are quite strong, and I think they're very easy to feel as a viewer. I think this one of the three, I had the strongest emotional response of the three, of course, excluding the third film. And I feel like it's not necessarily the strongest narrative, but I found it to be the most fascinating, the most unpredictable, and I don't want to say the most enjoyable of the three Myers films, but I think I got the most emotional response, which means for me it was maybe a stronger viewing experience. And this could be because I'm now emotionally attached to the film series. I do want to watch the rest. I'm really looking forward to it. I am developing an emotional connection to the characters, so maybe that's why. Maybe it's not necessarily that it's a stronger film, but certainly by this point I have a stronger attachment to the characters, and I found that to be a really great series. I'd say it's maybe not as scary as some of the others. I feel like the horror aspect was maybe a bit more of a slow burn. It took a little bit longer to get to certain places. The horror, when it was delivered, is quite strong, but maybe not as much as the previous two Myers films. So it's a different experience, but it works really well. I think they've continued the story in a way that's really interesting, really effective. The characters are still really interesting, maybe even more so now that there's this stronger emotional attachment to them. The horror aspect isn't quite as strong, but I think the story is maybe better written, aside from what they did with Laurie, because I don't know if they just decided actually that was a bad decision and Jamie Lee Curtis wants to come back for another film, so they then undid what they did. I don't know. As I said, I gave it a quick Google, and it basically said the others are set in a different timeline. So I will explore that in more, and I will hopefully have more concrete information when I discuss those, and I will share what I find. But if anybody does know anything in more detail, please feel free to share. And as I said, I think they made the right decision. with returning to Michael Myers. In fact, it's right in the title there. I didn't really pick up on that until just now. It is The Return of Michael Myers, not just because it's another story. They could have called the third film The Return of Michael Myers, and it would have still made sense had this been the third film. But it's almost like they're saying, hey, we made a wrong decision with the third film. It wasn't a good idea, so we're bringing Michael Myers back. And I think that was a great decision. Really enjoyed it. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers is a brilliant film, great story, wonderful performances. Not as scary as the other films, but still very effective. And ultimately, I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to watch the next one.